The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
This is Gerard with episode number 4 of Florida's Fresh Mix on the Florida Podcast Network, a random mix of Florida's freshest personalities. This episode is brought to you by our amazing launch sponsor, Mainline Marketing.
Hello, this is Amber, the production assistant for the Florida Podcast Network, and obviously I am here with your host, Gerard. And Gerard, once again, I am thrilled for another fun conversation because today's guest is sports handicapper Zach Hirsch. And actually, Zach was born and raised in Boca Raton, and that's where you grew up, right, Gerard?
That is correct. My sister and I both grew up in Boca Raton. To this day, I'm still not sure what's the right pronunciation. Boca Raton. Look, all I know is that it's mouth of the rat in Spanish. And it was a great place to grow up. I loved having that connection with Zach.
Yeah, and you guys, I think, actually get into what it was like to grow up in Boca, so definitely stay tuned for that. But this guy is absolutely incredible, and he's actually one of those guests we didn't speak to before the recorded interview. So the first time we actually talked to him, the first time we actually talked to Zach was during the interview. But his agent, whose name is Lee, he sent us some really, really great information about Zach, and we were very confident that this conversation was going to go pretty well. And spoiler alert, it did.
Yeah, it really did. Because he's kind of shot into the stratosphere at such a young age, I was trying to make the interview a little bit different, but he's so young and he already seemed like a seasoned pro.
When you just talk to him, you can tell that he's very gifted. He has so much knowledge in sports statistics at such a young age. He's only 19. I was absolutely blown away by this guy's ambition and tenacity in such a competitive field, because it's not easy to make a name for yourself in sports commentary and analytics, but he's doing just that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got so many famous sports announcers throughout the years, and you think about them as like, older guys. And now we're seeing, someone as young as Zach make his name. And it's very puzzling when you read the story, but then when you hear his story, it starts to make sense. And that's what we were trying to accomplish in this interview.
Yeah, and one of the coolest things about Zach is that for someone who's achieved so much success, he's really chill. You'll hear his nonchalant attitude about his sports handicapping career so far. He doesn't make a big deal about really cool things like his photographic memory or his over 470,000 Instagram followers, or even the fact that he's interviewed legendary boxers like Evander Holyfield, Canelo Alvarez, or Roy Jones Jr.
Look, I got to admit that I was hating a little bit because I was like, I wish that I could go back and figure out what my gift was a lot earlier and how to put every ounce of my energy into pursuing it, just like he did. And he's interviewed some of my heroes and some of the best in the game. And it's extremely impressive. So when I say I was hating on him, it's just really jealousy.
So to our listener, like on the last few episodes, you will definitely hear again a difference between Gerard's voice now.
Here again is my voice now.
And Gerard's voice in the interview, which we recorded a while back. And I'm also, again, using the same model of microphone that Gerard used for his interview with Zach. So you can probably already hear the difference in sound quality between my basic microphone and Gerard's brand new Shure MV7 provided by Mainline Marketing. The quality of sound from the Shure MV7 is just exceptional. I mean, it is so much more superior, and you'll hear how much better Gerard's sound quality has been during the interview and the rest of the show. So, on that note, let's get right into Gerard's conversation with sports handicapper Zach Hirsch.
Hello, Zach. How are you on this fine day?
I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic because I'm here on the mic with the infamous Zach Hirsch, also known as Mystic Zach from Boca Raton, Florida. He is a literal phenom. Zach, at the age of 19, is one of the most notable handicappers in the sports business. So he predicts what the athletes will do. He predicts those outcomes with a photographic memory, so I've heard. And the question then becomes, for people that are not in the sports biz, what is a handicapper? No, Zach does not take a baseball bat and break people's kneecaps. He's not that kind of handicapper. For people that are not in the know, Zach, Please tell us, what is a handicapper? What do you do?
Yeah, so when I started up my company and brand, I pick wins when I was only 17. So 2019, and my vision was just to pick sports games and be like a teenage sports handicapper. And I knew I would be able to amass a really good record and stuff like that. And I was able to go 21-0 my first year of college football and go 15-0 my first 2 weeks of sports picks, things like that. And
Unreal.
it was really, really successful. And what a sports handicapper is just someone who essentially gives out sports picks for people to do what they want. I mean, obviously people are going to put money on it and bet on it. There's a lot of people that bet big money on my picks, and that's kind of something that comes with the territory. I don't bet myself, but I do my picks, and I cover a lot of different sports, from football to basketball to boxing to mixed martial arts to tennis to bare knuckle fighting. You name it, I've probably talked about it or covered it on I Pick Wins.
It's clear that, your picks are very valuable to the multi-billion-dollar sports betting industry. People, want to use your picks to try to get ahead of the game and make money off of various sporting events. And you just mentioned that you do not bet yourself, which I didn't know before. Why is that? Why would you not decide to make money off your own prowess?
So it's something that I've thought about, right? Obviously, of course, comes with the territory. You sell your picks and you make money. And really, when I first started, I hadn't proven myself, and I haven't been in the field for too long. And I was really young. I mean, I was even too young for the legal limit to gamble. I was only 17.
That's true.
Now that I'm 19, it's something that, I've worked with people on and trying to establish my own betting service. I actually have a little phone hotline. If you text it, it'll pop up, Pick Wins, a little gambling service. And it's something that I'm definitely thinking about launching. And the person I was going to launch it with has been really, really busy. So it's been a little bit slow, but that'll definitely be coming, like a subscription service to my picks. And I'll be doing them daily across all different sports, because I think it's something that I should be taking advantage of as a sports handicapper.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but my suspicion is that you're less about the gambling. That's kind of a side product. And I think that you're more interested in the pride of being right. I think that you see this as a skill and a gift and a blessing. And it's less about the gambling, and it's more about your particular skill set at predicting these things, and the outcomes are what matter most to you. Am I right, or am I off?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And that's what makes it so separating from most sports handicappers. I don't even mention the sports line or the odds or anything when I'm doing my picks. It's just all about me picking it straight up, who's going to win, who's going to lose. And that's really been my specialty, is the money line and things like that. And I leave all the betting terms out of it. And I really appeal and target a more casual audience. I really try to simplify it, make it easy so people can make their picks. And most of my videos have been 1 minute or under. Recently, I've been doing more of the interviews, less of the picks. For this past year, it was a lot more difficult to do sports picks due to the pandemic. And even games I would try to pick, I would find out that players had COVID and they were out. Or in college football, it was even less. Like, there was less communication with the public on who was out or who was in. And even the national championship, if you look, I think Ohio State had like 12 starters maybe, or something crazy, out because of COVID. It's just been very difficult to do picks during the pandemic. In all sports that I do, including football, basketball, boxing, MMA, there's struggles in each one.
Let's go to how this all began. I'd like to understand your photographic memory. How does it work, and what is the relationship between that and your prowess when it comes to handicapping?
Yeah, so I like to call it a selective photographic memory. And what that means is anything I want to remember, I will remember.
Oh, I like that.
That's any statistic, any player. When I was younger, I would go around, like, this is maybe I'm in first, second grade, and I would try to just name like full NFL rosters. Or I would go on ESPN.com and I'd go to statistics and I'd try to remember who was top 5 in every statistic in every sport. And then I go to power rankings and I try to remember who was top 10 in each one, who was this, who was that. I always was infatuated with statistics and how it related to sports, and it carries over into combat sports as well, which I happen to grow up in. So the photographic memory really, really helps, and it makes me have to do a lot less research, and it makes me able to cover a lot more sports in a short amount of time. Because for most people, when they're going to do a pick, they have to research who won this game, who did that, and what game. But I pretty much remember whatever happened, especially if I watch it. It'll never get out of my head, and that's going years back for me now. So yeah, it's been super duper helpful with the photographic memory. I think that's what makes me unique as a sports handicapper.
Well, I'm completely fascinated with photographic memories, and they come in different types. And just to generalize, I think some people are born with a gift. For instance, I saw a YouTube video of this guy who was autistic, and he just took a helicopter ride over New York City or some city, and he was able to go back to a studio and completely paint the entire skyline from memory. So how would you categorize yours? Is it a natural born gift, or is it something that you practice, or a little of both?
I think it's a natural born gift, and I'll tell you, I was tested last year to get some things for the ACT and stuff, and my fluidized and crystallized memory was the highest they'd ever recorded.
Wow.
And both the things I was able to recite and how many and how fast I did it, they had never had anyone finish it, the entire thing. And you had like a 3-minute limit, and I remembered it all in 2 minutes. I think it's natural. But maybe it is, I do work really hard, and I do study sports extensively. It's just something that I like to do, and it's something that I'm always keeping up to date on. And that's, if you're looking at me, I'm probably on my phone refreshing for some new sports news or something like that. So maybe through the, practice, it's made me memorize better.
Do you think that your memory skills had a significant impact on your academic success?
Yeah, because I never studied a day. So I don't think.
You know what? I've been around a lot of smart people. I've never heard someone say that before.
No, I never studied a day. I'll be honest. Past 8th grade, I really haven't gotten a B. And I think I credit that to my memory. And I used to struggle in school, honestly. And I think that was due to the amount of homework I was given, even though I was able to do really good in the tests and stuff. I mean, at one point, I got a 105 on the midterm exam. I got every question right. And then I got a bonus one, too. And I still had like a C in the class. I was like, this doesn't really make any sense. I found a great high school that allowed me to use my skill set. And that's really how I started in the sports broadcasting. Was on my school, I had a Facebook Live show I did on the school's Facebook account. So I have to credit them for, allowing me to follow my passion and kind of try to achieve my dreams here. And I was only in 9th grade, so it's really come around full circle.
Wow, fascinating. So it sounds like you're the ideal situation where someone was born with a gift and they honed it. They recognized it super early and they honed it. And I think that that's what so many of us are trying to figure out. I'm a firm believer that everyone's born with at least one gift that sets them apart from other people. The question is finding it and honing it. So when did you first realize that you had a gift? Was it the smoothie incident or was it before that?
The memory thing, I think I've known about almost my whole life. And then when I was about 10 years old, my dad brought me a sports picking sheet, and that was for the NFL. And he told me to fill it out, and he was going to bring it back. And, I filled it out, and I forgot about it. I didn't keep up with the picks or anything. And then he went back to the smoothie shop a few weeks later, and they asked him, "Are you Zach?" And he goes, "No, my son is." And he goes, "Oh, he got all 16 picks right in our sports pool. Here's $500. So very young, I knew I was able to pick sports better than grown men and stuff like that. And even before then, we would do football picks as a family, and I was neck and neck with my dad who's been watching football his whole life, and I was, beating my brother and stuff. So
very interesting. I really want to understand the connection between your amazing memory and how it benefits you. And what comes to mind from my own experience is, I'm a corporate attorney. And so just the other day, I had to draft a disclosure for a client about investment risk. And one of the most notorious investment risks is you say that when it comes to the stock market, past performance is not a predictor of future behavior. And so this must also apply in what you do as well, because you might have the best memory of every stat, every game, everything that's happened in the past, but how do you morph that into predicting future behavior? Is there a special sauce to it? Do you just think that you're somewhat of a psychic? How does that work? I think that's the crux of what I'm really trying to understand.
Yeah, definitely not a psychic, or maybe a mystic. But no.
Well, you call yourself a mystic. You're Mystic Zach, right?
I do call myself a mystic. No, but I would say that boils down to the analytics. It's knowing which stats to study and knowing which stats are important and which stats are valuable. And things like, let's say I'm picking game of the Kansas City Chiefs. I know it's very important for Andy Reid to be good at home, right? And I know that because I've studied his whole career, and I know that he has a very good home record. So that'll help me. And maybe he's going up against a really good rushing offense, right? And I know he has a history of shutting down opposing teams' running backs. Just things like that, little things and little tidbits of information. I mean, even weather. Like, I can remember if it's a certain time of year in a certain stadium, what kind of weather we could be anticipating in regards to wind and snow and things like that. And, it on the long run really helps. And when you're someone like me who studies every sports result and make sure I understand why it happened, just continuing to investigate, continuing to know, and continuing to perfect what it is that I need to be studying and looking at in order to pick sports games. And of course, you're never going to be able to pick them all, and especially in some of the crazy sports I pick. But, I can do my best job to get almost all of them.
It sounds to me that your value add and what makes you special is efficiency. And what I mean by that is I don't have a photographic memory, but I, like anybody else, can read up on stats of past games and what the weather was like, et cetera, et cetera. But I would have to take time out of my day to do that. I think that you are creating a specific value add because you don't have to look up anything. You just know it and you don't have to waste the time. And you can process all that information and spit out your predictions in a lot more efficient way. Is that what you feel that you bring to the table?
Yeah, and that's something, a lot of people ask me, how can you pick so many different sports? Most people are experts in one. How can you be an expert in so many? And that's why, I have all the memory stored in my head and I'm able to just recite it out. There's a little bit of extra research, but not too much. If I didn't have the memory, if I wasn't able to recall certain things that have happened in the past, there'd be a lot more research to be done. I mean, even in boxing, right? Like I would have to watch back the past fights to see exactly what happened, as opposed to me. I can remember what happened in each round, who won each round, how they won each round. Just little things like that really help you save time and energy.
Hello, this is George with Flintstone Media and the Florida Podcast Network here to thank our Florida's Fresh Mix launch partner, Mainline Marketing. Great equipment can make the difference between an ordinary podcasting experience and one that is immersive and inspiring. The sound quality produced with a Shure MV7 podcasting microphone is simply far superior to other options on the market. The voice isolation technology will help you sound great even when you're not in an expensive studio. Gerard records his podcast sitting at the glass-top dining table in his apartment, and you would have never known. But not only is the sound quality simply unreal, the Shure MV7 podcasting mic is very easy to use with 2 output options. So whether your show format and setup call for you to plug your microphone into the USB port right on your computer, or to use it with an XLR cable into your mixer, you'll find the setup is easy. The Shure MV7 sound quality is top-notch, and it's easy to use, versatile, and also looks really great for your social media shots. So thank you again to Mainline Marketing for providing this wonderful opportunity for Gerard to level up his podcasting with the Shure MV7. Having won over 40 various achievement awards, Mainline Marketing has been the go-to audiovisual manufacturer's industry representative since 1987. They can be trusted to bring you the best. Visit mainlinemarketing.com today to partner with them. And be sure, once again, to check out the MV7 podcasting microphone from Shure by going to Shure.com. That's SHURE.com. Shure, turning a passion for making great microphones into an obsession.
So why are you not the next Wolf of Wall Street? It seems to me that your skill set could be easily tailored towards making stock picks and getting people to invest in your stock picks, and you could be a consultant, et cetera, et cetera. But I suspect that you're not passionate about Wall Street and your passion is sports.
Yeah, I think it always comes down to the passion of it, right? Like whatever I was going to have an interest in, whether it was stocks, sports, fruits, I mean, it can be anything. I was going to expound upon that and try to use my knowledge and become obsessed with it, right? Like I'm obsessed with sports and I've been that way since I was a kid. Maybe it runs in my family. I've got like some little cousins who are like obsessed with like tennis right now, and they're telling me about what's going on and we're calling all the matches and stuff. I'm like, whoa. But I don't know. It's just something in me that makes sure that when I'm really passionate about something, when I really like something, that I target that and I study as much as possible.
Talk to me about Impact and who they are and how you got involved and how important boxing is to you. That must have been a whirlwind for you to be recruited as the youngest on-air personality in their history.
Yeah, Impact Network is, a network that's broadcast over 90 million homes, and they're traditionally like a Christian type network, but they've gotten into boxing and stuff, and, they have Impact Boxing, and it's a really great opportunity. If you think about major networks, there's not too much boxing at all. It's very rare to get an opportunity to be able to be seen by over 90 million homes. So it's something that I don't take lightly. And, the way I got into that was my trainer and also roommate, BJ Flores, El Strange Jake Paul and stuff. He was a former professional boxer. He had done some commentating for Impact Network in the past, and he called Steve Marcano, who runs the boxing shows and stuff, and he told him about me, and he checked out my Instagram, and now Steve and I are really close. My dad and Steve are close, and I've really been able to build a really good relationship. And last year we did a great show in Tampa, and I just did the interviews. Antonio Tarver handled the commentary. He's a former great pro. He's also a great commentator. And for this last show, we were discussing like who's going to do the blow by blow, because they already had some fighters and stuff who would do the color commentary. And I said, I'll do it. And they said, what? And I said, yeah, I'll do it. I ended up doing that with Jamil McCline, who's also a good friend. And I think I was able to do a great job. And something that really helped me is the memory. I was able to remember stats, each past guy they fought, each guy in their division, and I was able to recite it. And I speak well. There's not too much time missing, and I was able to lead the show and really, I think, do a really memorable performance for being only 19 years old. It's something that I can credit to watching boxing my whole life and studying the greats of commentary and things like that. The classic HBO shows. Now we've got the Zone, Showtime. There's a lot of good people to look up to in the sport of boxing as far as commentating goes.
What sports were you really into that predate the Smoothie incident? And do those sports coincide with the ones that you make your predictions on today?
Yeah, they're pretty much the exact same, same ones I've tried to play too. Like football and basketball were always my two main team sports, and those were always the ones I played too at school. And then as far as boxing MMA goes, my dad was a boxing manager for guys like Shannon Briggs, Corey Spinks, Jamil McCline. So I grew up around the sport of boxing pretty much my whole life, especially when I was really young. And with that, I was super into MMA. I've always just loved combat sports, and I was always watch all the UFC fights. And I was also a huge WWE fan as a kid. Like I would love Brock Lesnar, and then I'd see him in the UFC. So that would also really help.
Are you in school? I think you're in college. I don't know where you're attending, but what's your daily life like?
Yeah, I'm getting my sports management degree from Lynn University.
Okay.
And that's been going really well.
That's in Boca Raton, right?
Yeah, that's in Boca Raton. My daily life is, during the week I'm in Brickell with my boxing trainer, BJ Flores, and my buddy, Jake Paul. And he's preparing for a big fight, so I'm fully supporting him in that, and I'm going to all his training, and I'm trying to get my training in myself. And all the while I'm juggling, a lot of different stuff. I have a website launching, pickwins.com, which is also going to be a brand and a daily fantasy sports company. And I think it's going to be tremendous and, really an amazing thing for me to build upon. So I've got a lot of stuff planned in the works, but my daily life really isn't super duper chaotic. I'm just really trying to get a hold of my boxing ability and make sure I know what I'm talking about when I'm on air.
And as a high school student, you were class president. You were student of the year, not too shabby. How is that transition from being in high school to you're thrown into this adult world of, you've got a real job? And how does, your college life fit into that? And what more is there for you? You've accomplished so much at such a young age.
Yeah, so I feel like I've kind of matured more and gotten to do more in like the past year than I had any other year in my life. Because if you think about it, I was in high school and I was enjoying my life and my friends and stuff, but all of a sudden I have to stay home because of the pandemic. I don't get to finish my senior year. I don't really get to graduate. I don't get to make the walk. And then now I'm not even living back home. Now I'm in Brickell with all types of adults who are, a lot older than me. I'm around people older than me and around people with a lot more experience. And then all of a sudden I'm working at shows for Bare Knuckle and Impact, and I'm doing so many interviews with so many different people. Floyd Mayweather, Canelo Alvarez, Ryan Garcia, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, Roy Jones Jr., Evander Holyfield, you name it, I probably interviewed him, especially in the sport of boxing. And it's like all of a sudden I'm getting thrown into that world where when I was in high school, I was doing a little bit. Like I'd gone up to LA to Logan and Jake, but now Jake's living here right where I am. It's crazy how much I've been able to grow in age in just 1 year.
I think that when people say you're only 19 years old, I think that can be taken two different ways. One could be with a negative connotation, which is that he's peaking too early. It's too much pressure for someone that young. And we've seen it affect people that reach certain heights at a young age. But I see it as a positive thing, which is, look, you've got a way head start on most people, and you're doing something that you love, obviously. That's very palpable. But do you have any fears that this is kind of happening too soon? What is next? How can I go bigger and better? What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel nervous?
No, every day I'm just trying to level up. My main goal is to get on a major network before I graduate college. That's always been my goal when I've sat down to watch TV, and I think I can do that at a high level right now. But I think I'll have to wait and see and earn my shot at doing that. And through that, I'm getting a lot of practice with all these different boxing shows. And no, I'm not nervous or I don't really feel pressure. It's just taking where the days go, someone I'm around a lot of, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, those guys achieve astronomical amounts of success at about the same age as I am right now, like way, way, way more than I can ever imagine. And, they're doing all right now in their careers, and they're still able to keep their head on their shoulders. So, I really shouldn't have a problem with it.
There must be some haters out there, right? I mean, you're so young and you're doing exactly what you love. You must encounter some haters, whether it's on social media. Tell me about that, and how do you react to that?
Yeah, I really don't care, which is,
I like
they don't
that.
really affect my life at all. And I think it's growing up on the internet, right? I'm a Gen Z kid, so I kind of know how the internet works. I know how people work, and I've always used the internet since I was young. So I don't get triggered by someone's comments because I know they're trying to get a rise out of me, right? And, something that I really experienced a lot was like the English people, for some reason, are the most ruthless.
You mean like British people?
Yeah, British people, yeah.
Yeah.
When I picked against KSI, they were all over me, like seriously, like really all over. He's like an English YouTuber there and stuff like that. They were crazy, like threatening me, saying crazy, crazy things. But, I don't really care. The more traction I get, the better. And anytime I post anything with Jake or Logan Paul or even like a Floyd Mayweather, it attracts dislikes and hate because people just don't know how to, handle certain things. And obviously I have nothing to do with them, but it comes with the territory. And as far as, being doubted for my age, that happens in boxing. But I think I'm going to keep proving to people why I'm here and why I'm here to stay and why I've earned my shot as, a boxing commentator. And I know a lot more than a lot of these guys think they know. I mean, I think I've forgotten more than they've learned. So,
well, I think the best way to deal with doubters is two things. One of them you just expressed, which is you just let it brush off your shoulders. And the second is results. And you've got the results. Tell me, what is your proudest pick? And what is the pick that you are the most way off and everybody knew it?
Yeah. So, the pick I'm proudest of, I would just say my first year of college football in general when I went 21-0. I've never heard of anyone going 21-0 in any sport at any time period.
Have you ever figured out the odds on that of someone picking 21-0?
No. I should go back or have someone do that and just see what the odds were in every game and what you would win if you parlayed all of that. And then as far as a pick that I got wrong, I would say maybe my McGregor-Poirier 2 pick. I picked McGregor, and, Mystic Zach really derived from Connor. He was Mystic Mac, and I saw him doing his picks, and he was so confident. I thought I can be confident in my own picks. I'm Mystic Zach, and he's always one of my favorite fighters. MMA is just a crazy, crazy sport, in that it's really tough to pinpoint exactly what's going to happen unless they have a really specific type of advantage. And now that that fight's over, I'm able to take why he lost and why I should have anticipated that. And it's just a learning experience, either I win or I learn. So.
Right, exactly. I mean, nobody's perfect, and you take it as a learning experience and you just try to do better. And at the end of the day, it's just predictions. By definition, your job is going to be imperfect. Do you ever just watch a sport just to watch the game and not think about all this stuff?
Yeah, and when I do it, it feels a lot better. And, it's funny. It's almost like, I don't know, like a rush I get now if I pick it. And it's like if I don't pick it, I don't get nervous. Which is kind of weird. I used to always get nervous for the big fights, but I noticed that, like, even like in Ngannou's Stipe 3, this past UFC fight, I always get nervous, especially like a heavyweight title fight. But my favorite sport to sit down and watch is probably football. I'd say football is number one.
College or professional?
Professional.
Do you have a favorite team, or are you not allowed to say?
Oh, yeah, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Okay. You've interviewed a ton of people, very famous people. What interview has affected you the most that you've done?
I would have to say the ones that have done the best numbers-wise have been the 2 Logan Paul interviews. This last one kind of went viral on Instagram. I mean, it was just a little clip from the interview, and it's got 210,000 views. But the one I'm most proud of, I would say, is my Canelo interview, just because he's at the top of the sport right now. He's the absolute best boxer in the world. He's pound for pound number one. So it's almost like getting a LeBron James to me, or a Tom Brady or something like that, when you get someone at the peak of their sport, at their pinnacle.
Maybe I didn't phrase the question as best as I could. Which interview has affected you the most personally, where you're like, wow, I came out of this interview a different person or with a different perspective?
Maybe my Evander Holyfield interview, which people haven't really gotten to see. I mean, it's on Fight News and stuff, but I wasn't able to post it on my Instagram because it was too long. But yeah, it was really good. We talked a lot about different topics and his faith and different things like that. And it was a really introspective interview. So I would say that one affected me the most on a personal level.
So listen, before we wrap up, I want to ask you 2 questions that have absolutely nothing to do with sports. First of all, you grew up in Boca. I grew up in Boca. How long did you live there? And what did you like about it? What did you not like about it? And let's see if we kind of agree on these things.
Yeah, so, God, I lived in Boca until I was 14. And then I moved to Del Rey, which is right next to Boca. So it might as well be the same thing.
Very familiar with that as well. I have family there now.
So, yeah, so pretty much the same idea, Boca Del Rey. And Boca is very, it's kind of all I've known. So it's like tough for me to compare it to too much, right? I mean, obviously they're known for the older people. They're known for the Jewish people. I'm Jewish. That makes sense. Okay. Something I don't like. A lot of like more snobby people, right? Coming out of Boca. A lot of boats and nice houses, stuff like that. You know, not everyone's down to earth.
Growing up in Boca, it's a great place to raise kids because it's super boring and you are much less likely to get into trouble. But then after that, they're going to want to branch out. And that's exactly what I did. And I'm 100% Haitian. So is the producer of this show, my sister.
Oh, great.
I was impressed and taken aback by the fact that you built a house with some friends in Haiti after the earthquake. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I was able to go to Haiti. It's an organization called Be Like Brit. They're an orphanage, but they're also an organization and a charity and things like that. And it was inspired by Brit, who was the Gangle's daughter who died in the 2010 earthquake in Haiti. And Be Like Brit came to my school. I was in 10th grade. We went about 3 years ago. And at first, when my school said they were going to take a school trip to Haiti, I thought they were out of their mind. My dad says, Zach, you're going. I was like, what? He's like, you're definitely going. 100% you're going. You're going to put on your resume. Everyone's, it's going to be great. But then as I heard more and more about Haiti and, different things, I was more and more excited and ended up being probably the best trip of my life. I stayed there for about 5 days, but it felt like 5 weeks. And I was able to build a home for a homeless family there in Haiti. And that was a really amazing experience. They were so happy. They'd never had a mattress or a key or anything like that. So they were super duper excited. And it was just a whole new world. I mean, Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So it's not like anything else. It just makes you appreciative of everything you have here. And it made me want to help out as much as I could, especially when you hear about how different people are supposed to donate billions of dollars. And I didn't see any of that there. I'm just being honest. So right when I got back, I made it my mission, especially with I Pick Wins, to try to do as much as I could. The first thing I did was I got my bar mitzvah money. I had enough to build a house. And then I made a GoFundMe. Wow, it came out of
your own pocket. I didn't realize that.
I started up a GoFundMe, and I used that through I Pick Wins, and I raised a lot. And then I threw a charity boxing event, and I raised a lot. And in total, I've gotten 11 houses built. That's 11, homeless families that have gotten houses. And I've been trying to go back since. The reason why I did the original house was I was supposed to go to my school, and we didn't end up going because of some political turmoil there. But we didn't pay them the money to build the house. We were just going to get them camera equipment. I'm like, that's kind of messed up. We're supposed to get the house done. So that's why I get the bar mitzvah money originally. And then since then, I've tried to, give as much as I could.
No, I think that's really amazing. And because every little bit helps. As you mentioned, it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And that earthquake certainly did not help. And, my sister and I would travel to Haiti many times when we were kids. But we went there on vacation. We went there and had, some of the happiest moments of our lives there. But at the same time, you bear witness to intense poverty, more than you've ever even dreamt of. And like you said, it really makes you appreciate and it makes you want to give back. But rather than just having those fleeting feelings, you actually did something, and you did it with your own bar mitzvah money, which is very heartwarming to me on a personal note. So thank you for that. Before we leave the conversation, why don't you tell me, do you have any events or anything coming up that you want to promote while you're here with me on the mic?
Watch out for my my website, brandpickwins.com. It's going to be a gigantic daily fantasy sports website, and they're going to be able to enter all types of sports picking tournaments. You're going to be able to take on Mystic Zach himself.
Excellent. And where can people catch you on social media or anywhere else?
All my ads are at iPickWins, www.ipickwins.com. My Facebook, iPickWins, which is verified now.
Excellent. Sounds great. I highly encourage everyone out there to go and check out Zach. Thank you so much. And this has been great.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
What a great interview with young phenom sports handicapper Zach Hirsch. For me, the fresh take is super easy. I alluded to this during the interview, and I'm most blown away by how this kid has done what I wish I could tell my 18-year-old self to do. And that is find out what you're passionate about and do that thing. My sister, who's the producer of this show, my sister Jaime, when she first started her podcasting career, she had a podcast called Curve the Cube dedicated to this exact topic, which is she interviewed over 100 people. I listened to every single episode, interviewing people that love what they do. You know, they're an entrepreneur. The through line through all of these interviews was passion, passion, passion. And so I think we're trying to break out of the mold of, you know, the old school way of thinking of go to school or learn a trade, get a job, stay there for years, get a good pension and leave. And you might be miserable doing it, but at least you'll get a good retirement and a picket fence and a home. And there's nothing wrong with people that want to do that. But through listening to my sister's podcast, Curve the Cube, I became convinced that passion has to be at the crux of what it is that you do, ideally. I actually wrote an article about this a couple of years ago called 5 Questions to Ask Before Choosing Your Business. And it's centered on finding what your gift is. I firmly believe that everybody on this planet has at least one thing that they're better at than 95% of other people, something that they're just born to do. The question is, can they figure out what that is? And secondly, do they like that? Do they like doing it? Are they passionate about it? Hopefully, what you're really good at coincides with what you also love to do, because sometimes that kind of goes awry. Like, for instance, if there's a child phenom and the parents pressure them to do that thing, whether it's play the piano or play a sport or whatever, and they're not really that into it, that could end up badly. You have to love what you're really good at. And then thirdly, you have to dismiss the naysayers that still harp on the old traditional way of doing things and creating a career. And then you have to figure out how to monetize it. And I think that with modern technology, whether it's YouTube or social media or anything else, you can find creative ways to take what you're passionate about and make money from it and pay your bills. Maybe you have to start off part-time, then eventually you can make it full-time. I remember at some point as an attorney, I would wake up in the morning to an alarm and I would have to sit there in silence and dread going to work. That's not something that anybody should have to live through. So basically, the entire time I was listening to this kid talk, I was like, this kid nailed it. He's way ahead of the curve. He figured out when he was 10 years old that he has this gift. He's got this wonderful memory, and he's figured out how to make money from it, but only doing what he's passionate about. I asked him about making stock picks, but he's just not into that. What he loves is sports. And this kid is the full embodiment of that premise. So that's what I took away from the interview. And his predictive skills and him calling himself Mystic Zach reminded me of our first interview where I interviewed the husband of Mystic Michaela. And I was thinking about also genius. We have an upcoming episode with Josh Zeppes that I hope you check out, where we talk about what is true genius and how do people monetize that. So this interview really made me think about and draw upon past experiences in my life, things that I firmly believe in, and a lot of different positive ways to think about how we can create our own happiness with our God-given talents. And that's my fresh take. For details and show notes about today's show and our guest, go to freshmixpodcast.com. I'd really love your feedback, both on today's guest and on my fresh take. The Florida Podcast Network has a closed Facebook group exclusively for super fans of their shows like Florida's Fresh Mix. Just search for FPN Insiders on Facebook to leave us comments, complain about anything in Florida you want. And to be honest, I just came across this article about top 20 reasons not to move to Florida, and I'm loving it because they're all true. And one of them is Florida has literal sinkholes. Sinkholes like quicksand. This exists in my state. So that's one of many things to be very wary of. So leave us comments to complain about Florida or get early scoops, contests, and other special treats. Many thanks to our amazing launch partner, Mainline Marketing. You'll note again just how much better I sound now than I did on the interview. And that's because now I'm back on the Shure MV7 that they gifted me with. And it sounds so much better. If you're in the market for great audio equipment, be sure to check out mainlinemarketing.com or find their info in today's show notes. And be sure to visit all the great shows on Florida Podcast Network. You can find them at floridapodcastnetwork.com. Keep catching who's fresh in the Florida mix with Florida's Fresh Mix Podcast.
Flint Flintstone Media has been the digital messaging bedrock of several brands and businesses, serving as a highly resourceful podcast production house and consultancy firm for over 6 years. Visit flintstonemedia.com for podcast samples. From show development and setup through recording and distribution, work with a leader in the industry and add a new podcast to your brand's content offerings. That's flintstonemedia.com.